Despite multiple reporters saying that Donald Trump continues to fall asleep at the Manhattan criminal trial, Donald Trump posted that he is not sleeping. He says he's just closing his, quote, beautiful blue eyes and listening intensely. Lies. Donald Trump also, when he left the criminal trial after yet another devastating day, he told the press that he's not allowed to testify at trial because of the gag order in place. And then Trump looked at his lawyer, Todd Blanche, and said, "That's true, right? I'm not allowed to testify." And Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, said, "Yup," shook his head. "Yes, that is a lie. That is false. That has major implications." And we believe at the Midas Touch Network, Donald Trump did that on purpose, dropping a poison pill to try to blame his lawyer if and when he loses the case for ineffective assistance of counsel. We'll explain what that means in just a little bit. Donald Trump also had one of his other lawyers ask the judge if Donald Trump could post these bizarre right-wing articles on his social media, to which the judge responded like, "What are you talking about? I'm not giving you advice or an advisory opinion. Follow the gag order and do your homework. Be lawyers. Stop asking me for guidance and advice." And then, of course, Donald Trump continued to whine and whine. There was also a contempt hearing held earlier in the day where Justice Merchan asked why Donald Trump felt entitled to make comments about the jury, this specific jury, treating him unfairly. The judge was not satisfied with the response at all by Donald Trump's lawyer. Donald Trump's lawyer was also complaining that Michael Cohen would call him Von Schützenpants, and Von Schützenpants was entered into the formal court record of this criminal trial. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Also, Donald Trump gave speeches in Wisconsin and Michigan. It was filled with more cognitive breakdowns. It was filled with more dangerous statements. But there was one moment in particular that I found particularly abhorrent. I mean, they all are, but this one moment I want to highlight what Donald Trump was doing with the failed Republican gubernatorial candidate from Michigan, Tudor Dixon, and what they were saying about the very popular governor from Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. We will break it all down. Also, President Biden spoke earlier in the day on student protests. We'll talk about that. And Florida's abortion ban has now officially taken effect. We'll talk about this and more on this episode of the Midas Touch podcast. We've got a lot to discuss. I'm here, of course, with our co-hosts, Brett and Jordie Mecelus. Brothers, how are you doing?
Doing great, Ben. Always good to be here. Busy day of Trump trials. What are we right now? Day 10? I mean, pretty crazy, huh? And it just gets crazier and crazier. I see with each witness that takes the stand, the testimony becomes more and more devastating for Donald Trump. And I'm just going to take a guess here. I don't think the jury is going to like this Donald Trump falling asleep in court constantly while the witnesses are speaking. I mean, they are seeing everything that is going on. Ben, I want to give you a huge shout out. I know you've been going today from live stream to live stream to live stream, beginning at 5:30 in the morning Pacific time through right now. I mean, that's quite it's pretty impressive. I gotta say, I know you have to. I know Cohen on Political Beatdown. For those who don't listen to Political Beatdown, what are you doing? You gotta subscribe to the Political Beatdown podcast with Michael Cohen, the co-host, and Ben right here. I know he needs to be a little more, or he's chosen rather to be a little more reserved about what he is going to say, and he's not going to be speaking directly about the trial on his show. But that's why I'm excited to get into it and speak about things like this being entered into the court record. Donald Von Schützenpants. I mean, this is a historic day, folks. This is a historic day that this entered the court records. And you'll see, I'm posting this right now, that it says it was trending number 6 in the United States. Since I took this screenshot, it's skyrocketed to the top of the trends in the United States. I can only imagine the kids learning American history in the future. And that was the day. That was the day that
Kids, turn to page 196 in your textbook, and we'll show you the day that von Schützenpants was entered into the courtroom record.
We're going to go after the time the former president was called von Schützenpants in court, that was a complaint by the attorney to the New York Supreme Court justice.
Real quick, Loki, what's so impressive about that trending, it's like, how do you even spell von? Like the fact that so many people were able
Everyone
to
needs to agree. They need to coalesce around
spelling.
the proper spelling of von.
And then to make it trend is very impressive.
It's a good point, Jordie. Anyway, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Donald Trump talking about these beautiful blue eyes, folks. The only people that I know with beautiful blue eyes are these two guys right here, my big bros. And Ben, just because I know we definitely have a concerned parent watching, big bro, you're wearing your glasses today. Usually that's a sign of you didn't do the contacts today. I think you look great in the glasses. I think you look awesome. But I know our mother out there would probably like to know why you're wearing the glasses now versus the contacts.
I've been doing the glasses for like 2 months now.
Haven't noticed until now, but I still
no. But to your point, Jordie, it's not exactly like a fashion choice. It's because he forgot to re-up his contact lens prescription.
There you go. I knew there was something going on.
He's been cooking too many videos for the.
When you go to live stream, I mean, it's hard to really just have any time for yourself.
You're just going to make the accusation that I forgot to re-up my content. You're not even going to ask. You're just going to.
There wasn't an outright denial. There wasn't an outright denial.
Why don't you ask me?
Did you forget to re-up your contact lens prescription?
I will not testify to that. I the Fifth Amendment. So speaking about invoking the Fifth Amendment and not testifying.
Transition. Wow. Gettysburg.
I specifically did not re-up my contacts 2 months ago, waiting precisely for this moment here on Thursday live at 8:06 Eastern. I knew it was gonna happen. Well, Donald Trump, when he left these proceedings today after Keith Davidson testified, there was also that's what he looked like today. There was is
this a photo of him or is this a sketch? I can't tell.
It's hard to tell. There was also a custodian of records who played the audio recording of Trump and Cohen. Cohen talked about, I got to open up this bank account, use Donald Trump's pseudonym. Trump talked about, taking care of it, keeping me posted, like it was all there on the audio recording. So after Donald Trump left trial for the day, when he holds those press conferences where usually he whines about how cold it is, he says it's an icebox. Well, today when he left, he claimed that the reason that he can't testify, he goes, I'm not allowed to testify because of the gag order that's in place. Then watch when we show you this clip. He looks at his lawyer, Todd Blanche, who always just looks so weird and uncomfortable, like in these images, stands and kind of grim. It's just a very strange look, the whole thing. But then Trump looks at his lawyer and says, right. Now, Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's lawyer, is actually a good lawyer. Who's become a very bad lawyer because he has to represent Donald Trump. And you can see how terrified he is of Donald Trump when Trump looks at him and says, I'm not allowed to testify, right? And then Blanche, basically shakes his head like Trump's not allowed to testify because of the gag order. Let's play this. And I want to explain, though, yes, it just shows Donald Trump as a liar and the whininess of him, but there's a more important legal point here that I want to discuss that our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, also pointed out. Let's play this clip.
What do you think about Keith Davidson testifying?
Well, I'm not allowed to testify. I'm under a gag order. I guess. I can't even testify on that. No, we're going to be appealing the gag order. I'd love to answer that question. It's a very easy question, the easiest question so far. But I'm not allowed to testify because this judge, who's totally conflicted, has me under an unconstitutional gag order. Nobody's ever had that before. And we don't like it, and it's not fair. Other people are allowed to do whatever they want to us, and I'm not allowed as a presidential candidate, the leading candidate, the Republican Party nominee, and the one who's leading Biden by a lot. I'm not allowed to talk. There's never been any abuse like this before. This conflicted judge ought to get out of this case. He should not be having this case. He gives us nothing. It's such a rigged court. So I'm not allowed to testify because of an unconstitutional gag order. We're appealing the gag order, and let's see what happens.
100% false. The gag order simply limits him from threatening and harassing witnesses, the district attorney, or the jury and their family members. Frankly, you shouldn't even have to have a formal document that says that. The conditions of release when somebody's charged with a crime essentially imply that. And criminal defendants don't go around attacking the family members or daughter of a judge or of the district attorney. They don't post photos of themselves holding baseball bats next to the district attorney. They don't attack witnesses. Even the mob doesn't do that. Donald Trump is simply limited from doing the things that all criminal defendants. He can talk about Biden. Heck, he can even talk about Alvin Bragg. He can talk about the judge. You heard him talking about the judge right there. Donald Trump talks every day. Donald Trump talks more than anybody. Donald Trump talks way more than President Biden. Donald Trump talks some of the craziest, most deranged, unhinged, dangerous stuff, which the media loves to normalize. But Trump speaks more than anybody and has more of a platform than anybody. And this is a lie, but it's more than just a lie. There's a principle in the law called ineffective assistance of counsel in a criminal case. This concept does not exist in civil cases. So if you're wondering, why can't he make that claim about Alina Habba? Because she's been representing him primarily in civil cases. But in criminal cases, if you can show that your lawyers were ineffective or lied to you or gave you bad information that prevented you from knowing your rights as a criminal defendant, that violates your right to a counsel, an effective counsel. It violates your due process rights. And oftentimes when cases are overturned on appeal, one of the things the criminal defendant argues is ineffective assistance of counsel. So what I observed right there Donald Trump doing was basically getting ready if and when he loses this trial to throw Todd Blanche under the bus. And Todd Blanche allowed himself, whether intentionally, whether unwittingly, or whether because he was scared, to basically be the ineffective counsel right there, basically saying to Donald Trump that you're being prevented from testifying. Donald Trump has a Fifth Amendment right, as all criminal defendants do, against self-incrimination from testifying. He's not compelled to testify, nor can the prosecution point out the fact that Trump not testifying is somehow problematic or proves Donald Trump's guilt or can any way be used to infer anything. That's unconstitutional for criminal defendants. In civil cases, you could basically say, hey, you could infer this person didn't testify because they're hiding something. Criminal cases, that's the biggest no-no. Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And so there, Trump is seemingly saying he wants to testify, but he's being prevented based on his understanding of the gag order as told to him by his lawyer, which is entirely false, 100% false. We also have discussed here, you know, from our reporting, we've given countless examples where Donald Trump's previously said he was going to testify, like the first E. Jean Carroll trial where he fled to Scotland and where he fled to Ireland and pretended he was building something there. He held like a shovel. And then he told the media, I'm going back. I'm going to confront E. Jean Carroll, and then didn't do that. And the federal judge, Lewis Kaplan, gave him the opportunity to do it, but he refused to do it even after having the opportunity. Remember, Alina Habba said that she believed Donald Trump was going to testify before the January 6th committee. Then Trump had another set of lawyers file a lawsuit to block his testimony. In the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case, Trump claimed he was going to testify on direct examination. He didn't testify on direct examination. Eric Trump didn't testify on direct examination. In their own case, you would think they would be their own best witness. They didn't testify in their own case when the defense got to put it on. They didn't do that. So they have a history of claiming to the media that they're going to testify or he's going to testify because he wants his base to hear that, to make him sound tough. And then he always comes up with something. It's rigged, it's unfair, it's this or that, because ultimately at his core, he is a monumental and massive coward. But here it has another significant implication with the ineffective assistance of counsel. It's why at the outset of the show, I said that's kind of like a poison pill. The prosecution's going to have to address it. The judge is going to have to address it. And he's going to have to inform Donald Trump that he has every right to testify at this trial. The gag order does not prevent him. And I think the judge is going to have to make Donald Trump acknowledge that in court and to make an affirmative statement. I think they're going to have to hold a hearing on it. We'll see if I'm right, but otherwise, Trump will try to argue ineffective assistance of counsel. I was told I'm not allowed to testify, but it just goes to show you all the sneaky stuff, the gutter stuff. Even in the testimony today with Keith Davidson, the lawyer representing Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, when he would put out these statements that Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels never had an affair and no hush money payments were made, Keith Davidson was then asked by the prosecution, but you are aware, based on everything that was represented to you, that they did have a sexual encounter. And Davidson was like, well, a sexual encounter is not an affair. And we consider the payments to be just simply consideration, not hush money. That's why we came out with that statement together saying no affair, no hush money payments, when in fact there was a sexual encounter that took place.
And Ben, that was related to that kind of piece of evidence that it was a letter that was distributed actually quite widely. First, I mean, we all saw it a few years ago, but kind of right as this trial was beginning, we saw Donald Trump on his social media post this letter that was signed by Stormy Daniels. We saw all the Trump sort of MAGA influencers post this letter that was signed by Stormy Daniels that said no affair, no hush money. And they were like, look what the media's been hiding from you. Look, this has been hidden. Case closed. It's over. It's all a scam. It's all a sham. It's a hoax. And it's like, no, that's actually part of the cover-up. Like, you are actually showing everybody one of the key pieces of evidence in this cover-up, and that was what was subject to scrutiny today, to show you how they use words to evade responsibility. Oh, that wasn't an affair. That was just an encounter. You know, they are very kind of sneaky people in all these regards. And also, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the gag order specifically is for what is said outside of the courtroom and has nothing to do with Donald Trump taking the stand in his defense. So on its face, Trump's entire argument is completely BS, no matter which way you slice it. Now, I expect Justice Merchan, at least he should, take this moment very seriously. And like you said, it shows you how at every step of the way, Donald Trump tries to sort of slither his way out of responsibility. But, you know, that's why I love our researchers here who catch all these moments and are getting all this stuff out there. Ron Filipkowski on MeidasTouch.com had previously written an article on the website back in December. You can look it up. It's called Trump's Long History of Not Testifying After Saying He Would. And Ron reposted this before because this continues to be proven true every single time. He speaks a big game, then the time comes and he backs out. He makes an excuse. In some cases, he flees the country. And so we've seen this repeated pattern. He is a coward. He is a liar. And we all see right through it.
And it's one thing, Ben, too, when we talk about the media covering Trump, it's like, we're okay with that, but you have to do it right. You can't just let him go unchecked, right, Ben? So when he says, I have a gag order, I'm not allowed to testify, and that just goes unchecked, all you're doing now, legacy media, is giving him a megaphone to just spew lies to the nation. What are you doing? And so, Ben, I mean, what do you say to that? And to Brett's point, the gag order extends outside of court. It's nothing to do with in the court, correct?
Well, that's why it's called a limitation on extrajudicial statements, not intrajudicial, not what takes place in the courtroom itself. But even if you think about it, like, he wants to go in the courtroom and attack the judge's daughter during testimony. Like, what does it have to do with this case at all? You want to attack the family members? You want to talk about the jury in front of the jury?
Let me make this point too, Ben, if it's okay, because I'll let you finish, and then I want to say one.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say Donald Trump's words, when you hear him speak also, He uses this phrase continuously, and he uses it purposely to evade his gag order. If you notice, anytime he speaks about Judge Merchan, Justice Merchan, he calls him the conflicted judge. What's he saying with the conflicted judge? He is making reference to the judge's daughter without referencing the judge's daughter. Speaking about sneaky language, that's another way that Trump is using sneaky language to make an implication that he is conflicted in some way because his daughter works for a political organization.
Let's talk about just what went down today in trial. It's day 10. There was the contempt order. There was the contempt hearing for violation of the gag order that was held in the morning. The judge seemed most concerned about Donald Trump's statement that this jury that's right there is unfair and is 95% Democrat. Justice Merchan, it's not even true. And Justice Merchan asked Donald Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, how do you justify that? And Todd Blanche said, well, he didn't single out any specific juror, to which Justice Merchan reportedly was just like shaking his head like, how dare you? Like you realize what a clown, no offense to clowns, look like in this courtroom. Then Keith Davidson continued his testimony and concluded it. He went over the settlement agreements that were entered on Donald Trump's behalf, how the payments were wired to his clients. He talked about the specific language that they used about Donald Trump, about there being not an affair and not hush money payments, but that there was a sexual encounter, and they thought that's how they were dealing with the press and the PR people and the media by not giving the media accurate information. And Keith Davidson really just kind of laid out that story and timeline. Then I thought what was really interesting is you had this forensic analyst testify, someone named Douglas Dowse, who actually works in a department at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office that deals with all of the forensics, that was actually created by Karen Friedman Agnifilo, one of our hosts here, and of course, who leads our coverage on the Trump criminal trial. She and Cy Vance created that whole division, and Douglas Dowse had to authenticate records that were extracted in connection with this criminal trial because Donald Trump is refusing to stipulate to allow basic business audio from coming in that would always just come in on their own, and you would never require someone to authenticate. The parties always stipulate to it. And frankly, it's usually the criminal defendant that wants to stipulate to it, and the prosecution that would love to have someone like a Douglas Dowse show up there and in a dramatic fashion play audio recording, right? But Trump is extending the length of this trial by weeks by making extra witnesses show up, and then Trump whines about the length of the trial. Douglas Dowse played an audio recording that Michael Cohen took of him and Donald Trump talking about opening up the bank account, creating this shell company, how the money would be passed, we would deal with it. And you have Trump on the audio recording basically saying, keep me updated, this will all go away soon, to Michael Cohen. The part the jury hasn't seen yet, though, which I think is incredibly important, which will just be like the aha moment, is after all of this, one of the things that the Trump defense is trying to do is act like this was just like Cohen going rogue and National Enquirer going rogue and all of these, and Keith Davidson going rogue, but Donald Trump had no clue what was really even happening. Well, that's rebutted by that audio recording one. It's rebutted by the fact that David Pecker, who ran the National Enquirer, has already testified that he was in the room with Donald Trump when they were talking about these deals and talking about Cohen, and that Trump threw a thank you party for David Pecker dealing with the McDougal situation and then dealing with the doorman situation, and how Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Hope Hicks we think is going to be testifying, how they dealt with Pecker. So we have Trump being involved through the audio recording, through David Pecker, and then ultimately the checks. Donald Trump then paid Michael Cohen. We will see Donald Trump's signature. Remember, this is a falsification of business records case. That part the jury hasn't even seen yet, where Trump, his signature to Michael Cohen, paying Cohen these checks to reimburse Cohen for the hush money payments that were made to Stormy Daniels. And then Trump grossed it up so that, to the exact amount, so that when Cohen paid his taxes, Cohen would basically be reimbursed almost the exact amount of what it was that he was paying. So we're going to see checks that are signed by Donald Trump to Cohen. And this case is about referring to those payments as legal funds. And so if Donald Trump's going to try to argue that Cohen was a bad lawyer or was, why were you paying Cohen this exact amount? That's what the case is going to boil. So just think about, after you build all these building blocks, then you see those checks. That's why I think the district attorney's office has been doing, honestly, an incredible job. I think it's even exceeded the expectations of Karen Friedman-Agnifilo.
Yeah, the prosecution's done a fantastic job. And, you know, the big thing about Donald Trump often that people say about him is he doesn't send emails. He doesn't leave kind of fingerprints on things in that regard. This is a case where he did quite frequently. He's on recordings. His signature is on checks. Like, they have him dead to rights. And the way that I like that they're building this case is there was such kind of media hype, outrage, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, about, like, is Michael Cohen going to be a reliable witness on the stand? Can what Michael Cohen say on the stand, can that be trusted by a jury? But by now, even, they've already put together all those building blocks that build the story, where all Cohen has to do is just confirm everything else that has already been corroborated by multiple witnesses. And one of the striking things today that I found in the reporting of what was happening inside of the courtroom is, and this has been happening kind of every single day in this reporting also, is how they have tied this directly to the election interference scheme by Donald Trump. Witness after witness after witness testifies that this was specifically done to prevent bad stories coming out about Donald Trump that would possibly impede his chances to be elected president of the United States. And there was one particular striking moment today where Davidson, the Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal attorney, he was asked about an email that he sent on election night where he said, "Oh my God, what have we done when Donald Trump won?" If that is not as incriminating as possible, if that does not get to the heart of what the issue is here in this case, then I don't know what is.
Well, how about this? The fact that then the prosecutor asked, what was that gallows humor? Why were you saying that? To which Davidson said is that because our activities we thought led to Donald Trump being elected. That's why he said we use that exact language. So that's what went down today. Also, remember, there's a lot of video out there of Donald Trump in real time after all this stuff went down in 2016, publicly praising Cohen. Michael Cohen, he's a great lawyer. He's a great guy, a great lawyer, a super lawyer. He's as good as you get. He's my lawyer, you know, over and over again, praising Cohen. And it wasn't until Donald Trump had to throw Cohen, didn't have to, threw Cohen under the bus, that then they basically changed that tune as Cohen's having his mea culpa. So I think we're going to see a few more moments of that before Cohen even testifies as well, of the prosecution showing other examples of Trump praising Michael Cohen after all the hush money payments, after Donald Trump reimbursed Michael Cohen. So that's what's going on in the trial. I want to talk about what's going on in Michigan and Wisconsin on Donald Trump's day off. It's a direct rebuttal to his concept that he's gagged. I mean, he's speaking Michigan, Wisconsin, and he's saying disgusting things, and the behavior is so abhorrent. And corporate media is not reporting. I like to say it like that, Jay. I've been using legacy media, but I think the best way to describe it is you've got Trump propaganda media, and then you have corporate media, and they both have agendas, and they're not aligned with the truth.
I'm gonna add that to my lexicon. I like that too. Corporate media. There we go.
Corporate media and Trump propaganda media versus independent media like this program that's community based. I want to remind everybody, patreon.com/MeidasTouch.